Eric Sheetsaber. We're going to be talking through this 8-game MLB slate, the 2-game NBA slate. If you want to talk a little showdown, I thought Sheets did a great job presenting like sort of the whole process yesterday, as he's done a number of times. I suggest you guys watch that kind of stuff because it's really like we say, you can change a lot of things. You can have a lot of great and terrible takes, but the one thing you can stay consistent in once you find one that works for you is the process. So I thought that was really helpful. Sheets, what are your thoughts today? Anything that you've changed since earlier? What kind of stuff are you getting? I think, baseball wise, I just sort of, want to get a feel for where you're at.
Yeah. So one of the issues with process is that, each day, especially in baseball, your confidence in it gets challenged by when there's conflict between what you think you want to play and what your process is getting you to. And so like yesterday, for example, for those of you that saw my whole process yesterday, I went through it. And then at the end, I'm like, wow, this, I'm kind of glad that I'm getting to this stuff, whatever. And so my sort of biases or my knowledge sort of confirmed my process. And that's not typically what you want, but to have to happen. So every once in a while, like you get to a slate like this, where if you ask me again, like who I like, hey, I like the Dodgers. I like Yamamoto, right? Cubbies look pretty good, things like that. Bailey Ober look really, really strong. And then I went through my entire, my entire process. And what do I end up getting? 35% Seattle. It's like,
Right.
My highest owned stack would be literally stacking against probably one of my top 2 pitchers. So puts you in kind of a quandary, and you have to decide what you want to do. In addition to that, like just to tell you, my initial my initial sim run and allocation to like the biggest buy-in, you know what it got me? No big deal, just a 5-man Miami stack. You know what I mean? So it's like, so you have to continue to put your own process to the fire and put your biases to the fire, and sort of what makes this fun. But I guess we can start with who we like. Yeah. And then we can mess around with process, whatever. So basically, like who I like is not much different. Like pitching wise, I have Yamamoto and Ober at the top, then a little bit of a drop to Harrison, and then this other group of guys like Gill, Lopez, and Lugo. And then if you wanted to save more money, you could play Mikolas. And unfortunately, the ownership is tracking rather nicely what I just said. Like my top 2 guys, Yamamoto and Ober. I'm seeing Yamamoto being 40% owned, and then Ober 33, like second. I'm literally, it's the ownership is ranked in the exact order of how I like the pitchers, which is kind of annoying. You'd love it to be a great situation. Hey, this guy projects well and no one's playing him. Well, it's not that easy sometimes. So that's why I'm as far as pitching goes. Now, before I even get into the stacks, one guy that you mentioned. Not even in passing, as kind of a one-off or whatever, you have this Tyler Black guy at 2,900. He's showing up as just a kind of a good overall value. But with respect to like who I would like, and we're talking about DraftKings, right? As a stack, okay. As far as value goes, San Fran, Kansas City, Chicago, and Milwaukee look to be good stacks, and all of those look to be highly owned, except KC doesn't look that bad. And actually, if you wanted to try to take a shot on Milwaukee, that doesn't look that bad either. And as far as just on kind of raw upside, San Francisco again. And then if you want to try to pay up for Dodgers in Atlanta, you could do that. So if you want to blend them all, like if I had to identify like my top ones, I guess it would have to be something like the Cubs in Kansas City. They're not going to be that owned. And although maybe every time I look at Kansas City, they look like chalkier and chalkier. And the Cubs too, actually. So anyway, Cubs, KC, then maybe like a Milwaukee as kind of a leverage spot and also a pivot. What do you like on DraftKings? Then we can talk about building.
Yeah. So for what it's worth, I don't think the Dodgers are getting any ownership tonight, and that just feels like an easy when we don't have a lot of things that are obvious to do, and we're looking for something to get different. It's going to be something like that for me a lot of the time. I feel very similarly with Atlanta. I feel like, my hand builds actually, that's what I tried to force in. I did do the 150 of the mini max today just to try to, get some different stuff and ran a bunch of different things. And the team I'm on the most is going to be popular, but again, I'm okay with it. I'll be overweight even the popularity, which is the Cubs. And then, Cubs mixed with Dodgers, Cubs mixed with you mentioned the Royals. I actually have like 15% Milwaukee. Some of it's like as 3-man stacks, but some of it's a full 5-man. And I have a lot of Milwaukee exposure. So yeah, Milwaukee, Chicago, Dodgers, and I have San Francisco. I'm not avoiding the situation for what it's worth. I'm going to be probably overweight the hitters, underweight the stacks, like the 5-man stacks. So I just have like 4 or less from San Francisco, just to get a little bit different in the way that I'm using them. For what it's worth, at pitcher, I'm highest on Ober is my highest owned, followed by Yamamoto, Harrison, Imanaga. I have like 25% Imanaga though. So that's one little slightly different thing. I don't think it's even that different. I just went way under on the Luis Gil. Sorry. I just feel like this feels like the wrong play at chalk to me. I think he's really good and he's going to have outlying great games, but it's just when you take the team that strikes out by so far less than everybody else, it just feels wrong to play the pitcher against him at 30% ownership or 27 or whatever the hell it's going to be. So that was my take. I also did not get to Ronaldo Lopez. So it's going to be high on Harrison, Ober, and Yamamoto with Imanaga, and then 15% Lugo on DraftKings. Less than like 1% Verlander. Oh, I have 15% of Budo just to get a little different. I have like 3 Cutter Crawford lineups. Nothing special. It's really going to be the main guys for me. I'm trying to get different, a little more with the hitting. And also I did change up the builds today. I ran a few different types of builds. I've been watching the non-5-mans win. And I'm curious to, on these mini maxes are sort of good times for me to test some of my 4-3-1, my 4-2-2s, my 4-2, whatever. When I like the chalk is when I'm going to end up doing that more often. And I'll just play the chalk in a slightly different way than most people. It's something that historically has worked great for me. It didn't work so much last season, but I wasn't, just didn't have a good season. But historically, that's been something that I've been able to do is stack teams in either in a different way or using them, 3-man, 4-man instead of like the full 5-man like everyone else is doing. So I'm playing around with some stuff with the mass entry stuff. That's pretty much where I'm at.
On FanDuel,
Colorado, I forgot to mention, 10% Colorado.
On FanDuel, again, just like who looks the best, I have Yamamoto kind of clearly above everybody else. And as far as the hitting goes, one guy that we, maybe you mentioned it earlier. I didn't realize he was going to be back in, but we mentioned that the Cubs were kind of struggling without some of their guys, and Cody Bellinger is playing, and he's 2,800 on FanDuel.
Yeah.
So between him and San Francisco's all real cheap on FanDuel. I mean, like Flores under 3K, Lee 3,100, Chapman 3K flat, Soler 3,200, Estrada 3,100, like all those guys. So they're going to be really, really popular, and they're going to be obviously really good plays. But as far as other things, again on FanDuel, and then we'll do builds just like we did yesterday. Why not? It worked yesterday. Mm-hmm. Is same thing. San Francisco up top, Chicago, KC, Dodgers. Now and Atlanta, you can probably get to them. Can you get to them? Good question. I don't know if it's so easy if you play Yamamoto, but you want to drop down to somebody else, you can certainly play him. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's pretty much as far as like who I would like. There's any rain, any issues or anything like that, or no?
A bunch of like little drizzle stuff, nothing that I'm taking seriously.
You want to talk a little more about Kyle Harrison? Because we spent a little time kind of obviously struggling, but I just made the note that like, wow, Kyle Harrison is.
It seems ridiculous, the ownership, to be honest. But And for what it's worth, I don't necessarily buy that he's going to end up as owned as everybody's predicting. I don't think he and Bailey Ober will have the same ownership. I think that's ridiculous. He's going to be far less owned than Ober, in my opinion. But he's 6,400 with what, the third or no? What's it? Let me look now at the updated. He's got the third highest strikeout prop on the slate. He's the third highest strikeouts on simulations of the whole slate, and he's 6,400. That's pretty much all you need to know. I think that by the way, if you want to make some bets, start betting the Yamamoto overs on the strikeouts. It's absurdly low every time, and he's going to start just killing these numbers.
Dude, how did we do on the I totally forgot. Did we even bet it? How did we do on the JP Sears thing the other day?
He crushed it.
He did. Okay, I didn't even check. It's so funny. Remember we bet it, or no, we didn't bet it. I think we did bet.
He had a dominant game. So I
presume I cashed on it. I remember we bet it, and then I held off on the stupid overjuiced home run thing yesterday.
Yeah. Oh right. Forgot about that one. Thanks a lot to Squatch Happens. Appreciate your hey, look, we appreciate anyone who appreciates it. So I'm guessing Sheets had a little spill he's got to go take care of.
Yeah, little variance here. Not a big deal.
little negative variance.
Yeah, it is what it is.
For what it's worth, though, I didn't get to him. I have him 1%, but
what's that?
Edward Cabrera against the Dodgers because the slate is so weird. If you did want to play chalk hitting, I would just try to force in some Cabrera, some Verlander, Cutter Crawford. That's the way if you wanted to play the Rockies. I'm sorry, the Giants to do it. I think you got to get weird with it because I just think between the Giants ownership and the main pitchers, the 5-man stack coming through is so hard to do. And that's why I said I have tons of exposure to San Francisco, but just mostly as 4 men or less type situations, and trying to pair them with teams like Milwaukee and the Dodgers, who are not getting the ownership I don't know if they deserve, but they certainly could have today. So with that said, I am going to jump real quickly over and we'll wait till she gets back here. But
I'm listening.
Oh yeah, no, I was just going to jump in. I was going to say I think it'd be a good idea to jump into some NBA stuff.
Oh, you're really into the NBA, aren't you?
Well, you have to understand, Cheats. All year long, I hated watching basketball. I couldn't take it. It felt like a gimmick at the beginning of the year when everybody was scoring 140 points.
Yeah.
Then and no one's trying, and then everybody's overplaying too many minutes. In your case, in New York, or not playing anybody any minutes, and none of the young guys were going. Other than watching Wembanyama, it was really like a lost season for me. And then the playoffs come around, and I love every minute. I could watch every minute of every playoff game and not get bored. I absolutely love it. I love playoff basketball. It's like a totally different game than the regular season, and I'm trying to capitalize on it. Hasn't had the big playoff hit yet, but I've got a couple of second places in the single entries and some good stuff. So we're gonna try and get it.
One thing that's among other things that's different about being married is about being single. Like if you're single and you spill like a glass of wine, your first move is to replenish the glass of wine. But when you're married, the first step is to clean up,
to clean everything
before you do the glass of wine. Still, it's not a big deal.
Unless you have OCD like me, and then you've just always had to clean it up before you can move on to the next thing. It's like when you get irritated with me when I get my text messages when we're doing our shows and stuff, and I'm like, but I got to respond to this. It's like an OCD thing,
right?
So I have to clean it 100%. But it's a good point. All right, so. Quick take, and then we'll go to Sheets on this. This spread doesn't seem like enough in Boston. Again, I expect the Cavs to win one game in this series, possibly more. I think it's 4 or 5. It went up since I said that already. So it's already up to 12.5 now. I guess if you're going to get them, game one is possible. So I kind of like the idea of betting the Cavs money line at plus 540. And I kind of like the idea of betting the Celtics with a higher bet to cover. I also think that Dallas at OKC, I like OKC in this game. In the series, I think it's really close. I picked the Dallas in 7 before in my early playoff predictions. I'm really up in the air on what to do because I actually think the weirdest thing is that Kleber the Kleber thing is like sort of swayed me to the other way, but I think OKC is going to be very tough for Dallas to beat, actually. And I think this game especially, it's going to be very, very tough. So with that said, DFS wise, what are we going to do? I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have my exposures, and I have 92% Shea. That's where I'm at. I don't see it changing a bunch. Maybe it gets to 85%. My highest owned players are Shea and Mitchell. Somehow I still have Luka as my third highest owned player, and then Jalen Williams. I don't really know how that's possible, but I guess it happened. And then I think you have the guys we mentioned. To Isaiah Joe is the value I'd prefer to spend down on. Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford is an interesting conversation because I do think that's fairly relevant, and I think that you want to play one of them. I actually think my initial take was Lively was the better play. I'm starting to switch over and go more towards Gafford if they're going to be the same ownership. So I will have probably 30% of each of those guys. Neither of them are off the board. I'm sorry, I should say at least 30% of each of those guys. In terms of the getting, it's not super weird, but Darius Garland's going to be overlooked tonight. That's a guy you could use to get a little different. Evan Mobley is going to be low owned tonight unless Jared Allen is out. I think Derek White is a great play. I don't think he's going to be low owned, but I think he's a very good play. PJ Washington, I would bet anything, comes in way lower than whatever ownership projections you're looking at. He's the other answer to. So my rule basically is to try to get one of PJ Washington, Gafford, or Lively in every lineup. There's just no way one of them doesn't smash. Washington will be the lowest owned of the three. I think that's interesting. Max Struss is going to be overlooked, and he's a heat check guy. So any heat check guys in the playoffs, you got to roll with them. Isaac Okoro, they might need him to defend all those guards. He's another value spend down. Aaron Wiggins, these are speculative ones, but they're not. They make some sense. And Josh Green is slightly underprojected. I will go back to what I said earlier. It looked like Cornette was going to be owned earlier, and there'd be no Tillman ownership. Well, now neither of them are projecting for any ownership, and I am not buying it. If Jared Allen plays, I will get exposure to Tillman and Cornette in a major way to go with my Dallas guys. I'll spend down my money at center, and so I can spend up on all the perimeter. That's sort of what I'm doing.
I think I'm back to that idea again. I kind of like that. I really like that. Yeah. Are they getting any projection at all or no? Cornette's projected at 12%. At 12 fantasy points, and he was projected early in the day at like 15% ownership, and now it's down to like 1%. I'm getting Tillman with a point projection of 1.
That seems about right for where it's been. But what they're doing is they're reacting to how it's been. People change. Playoffs are all different because the matchups are different. Isaiah Jackson didn't play any minutes except for in blowout run in the first series. And last night, he was a major part of what got the Pacers in the game.
I mean, the fact is, you have Al Horford with like projected ownership of 52%, right? And then I have Luke Cornette projected at like 1. And
right.
And Tillman at like 0. You know what I mean? So who died and said Al Horford's got to play 48 minutes? You know,
but even if Al Horford plays, are they really is like Tatum matching up with Jared Allen or Mobley? That doesn't really they could, but it seems like a strange decision to go that way. Tatum's a good perimeter defender. He can guard a big guy, I guess. I just don't see why they would do that. And I guess if the answer would be, we just want to play our best guys as much as possible. That's fair. But they got Xavier Tillman for a reason. Luke Cornette is a part of their rotation already. Let's get some exposure to these guys and take the chance. I don't think you have to decide, you have to play one of them or something like that. But I think that's your get weird stuff, and I don't think it's that weird. It wouldn't surprise any of us if Cornette or if either of those guys got 15 minutes and put up 15 fantasy points, and then your other center spot, you one of the Dallas guys, and you get 25 or something out of them. Then you just spend up and you win it by differentiating and getting that weird low ownership and getting the right value, and then you spend up for the wings, for the guards and the wings.
Boy, oh boy, I wonder if I should do this. If I did min 1, Cornette, Tillman.
I mean, that just feels like I don't mean
classic. I'm going back just to showdown again.
I kind of like that. The only problem is the price difference between Hauser and Cornette is too close. And why I like it for the regular more than the showdown is because it differentiates your style of building no matter what. Because nobody's going to be able to pay down for that other second center spot.
Right.
So if you just do that, you naturally just cannot beat it. Like people just can't do it.
You know what I can do? I mean, I could do 20% of those guys, right? In showdown.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world, right?
That's reasonable, I think.
That's not the end of the world. Okay. And what's my? Do I want to do any funny business with my Geo mean? Probably not. Like if I'm going to play those guys, like 20% each, I think that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's enough funny business. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just see something. How many people are in this tournament in the Boston one? Because one of them is always like a little bit less nasty. So this one's the one that's less nasty. This one's only got 6274 in it, as opposed to the other one, which has got a shitload.
Wait, which is it? Sheets?
Boston Showdown's like lower.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, yeah. Because they always do that with the first games. I'm kind of glad because I was going to do that, but like I'm not fast enough at my late swap thing and switching things over like you are. So like I need to know if Jared Allen's playing before I.
No. I'm not doing that. I'm talking about Showdown. I'm just saying.
No, I hear what you're saying. I didn't play. I'm saying I'm not playing the Cleveland Boston Showdown because I'm not as good at as you are at swapping in things after information hits. So if we find out Jared Allen's out, all my Showdown lineups I'll have to just rebuild by hand, or I don't know how once I've entered to do it fast enough.
Okay, got it.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I wanted to play that Showdown one. I did play the other one. I have 20 entries in the other stuff, and I'm trying to see if I got anything weird in that one to mention. It's Shays and basic.
You have any hoodoos in the later game for Showdown?
So for my captain, I have some Isaiah Joe captain.
I was going to say Kason Wallace, maybe.
He's the one that is harder for me to get behind because I feel like Isaiah Joe has a higher ceiling because he's a shooter, and Kason Wallace could be out there and play defense. And I love Kason Wallace as a real life player, but I just think that it's a better. I don't know. I think personally, for two guys who project similarly, I'll just always take the guy who has the offensive upside, and I just didn't get to as much Kason Wallace, but I think Kason Wallace is the same. It's totally fine. I think it's totally a reasonable play. It's just I personally like the guy who's gonna maybe hit 5 threes and keep himself in there. Let's see. I got Kyrie in one. I've got so basically I've got my biggest. I have Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, and Isaiah Joe are my biggest differentiators at the captain spot. And in terms of regular ownership, my biggest differentiators are I'm very high on. I have Aaron Wiggins there just because other people weren't playing enough of them, and that's really my biggest differentiator.
You think Gordon Hayward's going to play at all?
Yeah, but I don't think it's. I think Dante Exum is the other guy you could consider for captain. It's very speculative on how much he'll play. Dallas, I mean, they barely used him in the last series against a team that plays a bunch of guards, so maybe it's completely wrong. But he was a part of their team during the season until he got hurt. He was really a part of their rotation. And I'm wondering if maybe in this series, because you have a bunch of guards and a bunch of wings, you need to maybe his defense will come in handy for Dallas. The problem is Hardaway's back now, and he didn't even play when Hardaway was in. So Hardaway, I guess, is the biggest variance play. Like I have no idea what to expect from him. My guess is not much, but again, you get these heat check guys, and we see it over and over again every game in the playoffs. When a guy gets hot, they just aren't going to pull him out of the game. It's not going to happen unless you're Indiana. And I love Carlisle as a coach, but if you want to ask me what the mistake is and what you look out for the rest of that series, TJ McConnell needs to be playing 30 minutes a night. TJ McConnell has been their best plus minus guy every game they've played, and he was killing it last night. And for some reason, they pull him out with 5 minutes left. I don't get it. I would rather have him on the court than anybody at that moment. I probably would rather have him than Halliburton the way Halliburton's playing anyway.
Did you talk about Jalen Williams with a Y?
Jalen with a Y is another one I'm willing to use more in showdown. So he would be.
Yeah.
So the thing
That's
is, like,
that's all I'm talking about right now is showdown.
okay, yeah. I'm definitely good with him in the showdown. Part of my thinking early in the day was that I actually thought he would get some ownership as that second spot. But if you wanted to get like, hey, I don't feel quite comfortable enough to go to a guy like in Tillman we haven't seen play at all. Maybe for you the answer is playing a little Jalen Williams because he has at least been in the rotation. And he's a good, and he can be a decent fantasy scorer against a team that gives up a lot of fantasy points to the position.
So let's see about. So we're gonna get Jared Allen news sooner than later, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming he's playing at this moment, but I thought the same thing for Game 7. So maybe I'm just an idiot.
We have okay, so we have Dodgers lineup. We have that.
Oh, we got it in. Okay, let's see what it looks like.
Let's see if there's anything different. No, it doesn't look like it. Looks like everybody I expected.
They're just on this. I think they're going to start beating. They're going to start winning like every game. They're going to go on one of these crazy streaks. I don't even know how many it's been in a row that they've won, but it's a lot. Yeah, Padres, Lux, and Outman. That was my other one that who was I chatting with in the Discord about that? I think so. I think Outman. The Dodgers face so many lefties. And Padres has been so good, right? I think that Outman is going to go on a tear at some point soon.
He's got that swing, dude. I'm telling you, I was sweating him yesterday.
Yeah,
he's got that home run swing. He does. I like it. I like it.
And because their lineup is so good, who's going to be batting behind him mostly but Mookie Betts? So and then Joey after him, he's just going to get all the pitches he can hit in the world, and it's going to be a beautiful thing. So
yeah, he hit one yesterday, and he was really close to hitting at least one more.
Yeah. He gets he just needs the ABs. It's funny you mentioned that because I remember thinking that, like, when I was watching the game last night a little bit, I was just like peeking back and forth from basketball, and I thought the same. I was like, God, he's got that perfect short stroke home run swing. Like, you know what I mean? All right, so I'm probably gonna get to finishing some of my builds, but just to say again for my basketball stuff, like Shea is 90% of my lineups for the 2-gamer. I actually have him less owned in the showdown somehow. Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Williams, Luka Doncic, Jaylen Brown, Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, Isaiah Joe in that order of my ownership, and then you get Horford, Giddey, Holmgren, Tillman. I've got like right now. You think I'm messing around? I've got Tillman right now in 22% of my 2-gamer lineups, and I've got 20% of Cornette as well. So I'm probably going a little too off the board, but maybe it's a game.
Well, like you said, they got him for a reason. And I guess what you could do, I mean, you could play, Allen with him together. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, they just announced Allen is out, so everything's going to change.
Oh, are you kidding me?
So it probably means they go back to they'll either start Marcus Morris or Okoro because that's what they did last time. They started Morris in Game 7, Okoro in Game 6, but Okoro played the bulk of the secondary minutes. I would count on more from Okoro in this series, although Morris, it's his Twins former team with a fallout. I'm just kidding. But it is interesting. I am curious to see what they do in this series now because, so now I'm going to have a lot less. I'm going to have a lot less of those Boston guys. But you're going to see Tristan Thompson, and you're going to see Marcus Morris. Yuck.
Well, what have they been doing? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's nothing. This is not new, right? I mean, he's been out.
Yeah, but it's going to be a totally different situation, I think. Well, you'd think Okoro, because the way they play like the 5-out style in Boston, it's really hard for me to picture them wanting to not have defenders who can move vertically. And Okoro's the better defender. Morris is a tough guy who used to play for them and theoretically brings more offensively. Honestly, they won't play Niang enough minutes. They haven't shown any willingness to. So it's sort of a weird scramble. The one you could feel safe with, who you know is going to play, is Okoro, regardless of whether he starts or not. But then you probably start Morris, and you probably get minutes out of, they probably start Morris or Okoro. I just think Niang should play some minutes. Again, I don't trust their coach based on what I've heard from people I know around them, but that's who I would like to play.
I think I'm going to take out that Tillman Cornet thing.
Yeah, that changes it all, I think, for me. The idea was the double bigs. Now your double bigs are Tristan Thompson. I mean, I wonder what are we really gonna end up playing Tristan Thompson? In Showdown, you are. Tristan Thompson. Nah, I mean, you'll play a little bit of him in Showdown. Yeah, I think he's actually worth it in Showdown. Morris.
Isn't it sort of revenge? Didn't he play for Boston for like 2 days or something? Like,
yeah, it's more. Yeah, it's revenge. No, he was there for a good. He was there for a good run. So yeah, he started the last game and played all of 7 minutes, and he came off the bench the game before and played 27 minutes. So I don't know what to do with it. And he played 26 minutes the game before without Allen. So it's if he starts, yeah, you're gonna have to play some of them. If he doesn't start, I don't think you have to, but you might want to get some low-owned exposure. I'm curious who they start. I guess we'll see in a minute. Let me just see in case.
Yeah, we'll get that shortly, I presume, right?
Should be. Yeah, here we go. Oh, it is Okoro. So yeah, that's what I thought they would do. The Okoro. I actually think now I probably will play him as a contrarian play off the bench. But yeah, Okoro is the logical one, and he's going to be in a million lineups. And just to remind everybody, Okoro, there's a downside there. If they're down a bunch, Okoro is not exactly the offensive weapon that you need. But then again, they don't really have options that really are. I do think this bumps Levert back up, and I think this bumps Struss up a little bit too. Just because there's extra minutes and a couple extra loose ball rebounds. I also think it benefits, it basically benefits everybody.
And what about Niang and those guys?
Well, Niang is the tough one. I can't. I almost don't even feel comfortable because I'll tell you about it sometime. But the problem is there's real beef between he and the coach. He did start to get minutes in that Orlando series and then got none of them in Game 7. I mean, the first game of the Orlando series, he played 25 minutes, and then it just sort of went downhill. Maybe. He's a tough guy, so that you'd think that they would want to get him at least some minutes.
Right.
Marcus,
I gotta take out my 40%, my exposure minimum on Cornet and Tillman. Okay, that's good. I'll keep him. He still has a 12-point projection, so we'll keep that in. But
yeah,
we'll just rerun these then.
So it's going to be Okoro, who'll probably project as the best value, low value. He won't he will still probably won't be 5x.
Wait, what's this?
Just trying to figure it out.
Trump classified documents trial delayed indefinitely.
What?
What's this?
God, you just can't make any sense out of anything.
I don't know what that means. Okay.
Jesus. All right. Well, I'm going to go rebuild, but I guess the answer for everybody is going to be, Morris as a tournament dart, Niang as a tournament dart, probably Sam Merrill as a tournament dart, but the main thing is just to play more Okoro.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It is interesting to see if they'll go back. They're so stubborn with the double bigs. It's sort of surprising to me they're going to start a series without it, because that was their one thing that I thought they would. I honestly thought they'd play Mobley and Tristan Thompson or something.
Maybe you get Tristan Thompson off the bench.
For a Showdown, it's no joke, because he's going to play 10 minutes, and he's a good fantasy producer. He's a good rebounder. Right. Very, very good Showdown
and
player.
You know that if something's working at any point for Cleveland, they're going to run with it.
You think they would? I hope so. I hope they would. They did it last game, so hopefully they learned. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to say good luck. Sheets, have a good one tonight. Do you want me to leave this running or not?
No, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Good luck, everybody. We'll see you guys.